Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking on something pretty unique.
Oh.
We're looking at excerpts from an article examining Shoghi Effendi's The World Order of Bahá'u'lláh. Now, even if you're not familiar with the Baha'i Faith, stick with us, because this book tackles some massive concepts like world order,
Right.
prophecy, and the role communities play in shaping the future, and offers a really thought-provoking perspective.
What's really interesting is that the World Order of Bahá'u'lláh was written in the 1920s and 30s,
Okay.
a period of intense global upheaval following World War I. The world was grappling with new ideologies. Traditional systems were crumbling.
Right.
So Shoghi Effendi, the leader of the Baha'i Faith at the time, penned this book as a source of guidance and hope for this burgeoning Baha'i community amidst all that uncertainty.
So when we hear world order, it's easy to jump to conclusions about one power taking over everything. But is that what Shoghi Effendi had in mind?
Not at all. His concept of world order centers on a vision of a just and peaceful global society rooted in unity, equality, and collaboration. And for him, this wasn't some distant utopia. He saw it as an active process,
Right.
something that was already unfolding.
Yeah.
And he believed that the Baha'i community should embody this world order, serving as a real-world example of how these principles could function.
So it's like they're a model for a better world, putting those principles into action. How successfully do you think they've been able to do that?
That's a complex question. The Baha'i community is actively engaged in various areas like promoting education, sustainable development,
Okay.
interfaith dialogue, all rooted in those core principles. Whether they've perfectly achieved it is a matter of perspective, but their efforts definitely provide a tangible example of what a world order based on unity and collaboration could look like.
It's definitely an ambitious undertaking. Now, you mentioned this book also touches on prophecy. And prophecy isn't exactly a topic you hear discussed every day. Can you unpack that a bit?
Shoghi Effendi takes a fascinating approach. He weaves together biblical prophecy,
Okay.
Islamic eschatology, and a Baha'i scripture
Yeah.
to position the Baha'i faith within a grand historical narrative. It's not just a standalone event, it's part of a larger unfolding of human destiny as he saw it.
Okay. So how does he connect those different traditions? That sounds pretty complex.
Well, Shoghi Effendi believed that God reveals truth progressively over time through a series of divine messengers. Each messenger builds upon the teachings of those who came before,
Right.
expanding humanity's understanding of truth and guiding its spiritual evolution. He viewed the Baha'i faith as the latest chapter in this ongoing revelation, building on the foundations laid by previous religions and offering new insights for a new era.
So are you suggesting that the Baha'i Faith, in his view, is the culmination of this long process of revelation?
That's a complex theological question, and there are diverse interpretations within the Baha'i community itself. However, Shoghi Effendi certainly emphasized the Baha'i faith's unique role in this era, particularly its focus on unity and its vision of a global society. He saw the Baha'i era as a pivotal turning point in human consciousness, where the interconnectedness and oneness of humanity would become increasingly apparent.
That idea of a shift in human consciousness is intriguing, but we still see so much conflict and division in the world. How do you reconcile that with this idea of progress and unity?
That's a valid point. Shoghi Effendi didn't deny the challenges. He acknowledged the deep-seated prejudices and divisive forces that humanity faces. But he maintained a hopeful perspective, believing that this shift towards unity is a gradual process. It's not a linear progression, but a continuous unfolding with setbacks and advancements along the way.
So it's not about expecting perfection overnight, but recognizing that we're part of a larger movement towards a more unified world. So if this shift is happening, what are some of the signs we can look for in our own time?
Shoghi Effendi pointed to several developments that he saw as evidence of this shift. For instance, the growing awareness of our interconnectedness as a global community, the rise of global institutions, and even the increasing calls for peace and justice.
But alongside those positive trends, we've also seen a resurgence of nationalism, isolationism, and various forms of extremism. How do those fit into this picture of a world moving towards unity?
Shoghi Effendi was writing in a time when those very forces, nationalism in particular,
Right.
were on the rise. He saw them as symptoms of a world in transition, grappling with the growing pains of this shift toward the more unified consciousness.
So he didn't view those divisive forces as negating the overall trend towards unity.
No, he saw them as challenges to be overcome, obstacles on the path to a more unified world. And he believed that the Baha'i community, through its example and its efforts to promote unity and understanding, could play a crucial role in navigating these challenges.
Makes sense. So how does this concept of a shift in consciousness connect to the Baha'i community's efforts to create a microcosm of this world order?
It's all interconnected. By embodying the principles of unity, equality, and collaboration within their own community, Baha'is aim to demonstrate the viability of these principles on a larger scale. They see themselves as contributing to this shift in consciousness.
So it's not just about creating a separate utopian community. It's about being a force for positive change in the world, demonstrating that a different way of relating to one another is possible.
Exactly. And this brings us to a crucial element of Shoghi Effendi's vision, the concept of consultation as a means of achieving unity. He believed that true unity isn't about uniformity or blind obedience, but about harnessing the collective wisdom of a community through a process of meaningful consultation.
That's a really interesting point. Can you elaborate on what he meant by consultation and how it differs from typical decision-making processes?
Well, for Shoghi Effendi, consultation wasn't just a nice idea. It was absolutely essential for progress. It wasn't about top-down decision-making or imposing one's views on others. It was about creating a space where everyone could share their perspective, where ideas could be freely explored, and where a unified vision could emerge through collaborative effort.
That sounds great in theory, but how does that actually work in practice, especially when you have diverse perspective and potentially conflicting opinions?
It's certainly not always easy. Shoghi Effendi stressed that true consultation requires a specific set of attitudes and skills. Things like detachment from one's own opinions, a willingness to listen deeply to others, and a sincere desire to arrive at a unified understanding. It's not about winning an argument. It's about searching for truth collaboratively. So it requires a pretty fundamental shift in how we approach decision-making, moving away from this adversarial win-lose mentality. Precisely. Shoghi Effendi believed that when people engage in this kind of consultation, in a spirit of unity and seeking truth, something quite remarkable happens. They can tap into a higher level of understanding, one that transcends individual limitations. It's not just about compromise. It's about striving for a unified vision that incorporates the best of everyone's insights.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the Baha'i community itself is meant to be a microcosm of this world order. Does this concept of consultation play a role in how the Baha'i Faith is structured and governed?
Absolutely. In fact, the Baha'i Faith has a unique administrative order built on these very principles of unity and consultation. Shoghi Effendi didn't want a rigid hierarchy or a system dominated by clergy. Instead, he envisioned a living, breathing entity, as he put it, that could adapt and evolve with the needs of the community.
A living, breathing entity. Now, that's an image that definitely captures the imagination. It sounds like he was trying to avoid creating another static bureaucracy. But how exactly do you create a system that's both structured and flexible, capable of evolving over time?
That's where the principle of consultation comes in. The Baha'i administrative order isn't based on top-down dictates, but on a system of elected councils at local, national, and international levels. These councils are responsible for guiding the affairs of the community, but they do so through a process of ongoing consultation with the community members they serve.
So it's not just about elections. It's about ensuring that those elected officials remain connected to the community and make decisions in a collaborative way.
Exactly. And this system of consultation extends beyond just administrative matters. It's encouraged in all aspects of Baha'i community life. From resolving conflicts and planning activities to studying sacred texts and exploring spiritual questions.
It sounds like they've really woven this concept of consultation into the very fabric of their community. But I'm curious, how does the election process work? If there are no clergy who nominates candidates or sets the agenda for these councils?
That's one of the most distinctive aspects of the Baha'i administrative order. There are no nominations or campaigning in Baha'i elections. The idea is to avoid the kind of politicking and self-promotion that often characterize elections in other systems. Instead, each member of the community prayerfully considers the individuals they believe would best serve on the council based on their qualities of character. and their ability to foster unity and consultation.
So it's more about recognizing individuals who embody those core principles rather than promoting personal agendas or platforms.
Precisely. And this emphasis on character and service is reflected in the way these councils function as well.
Okay.
There's no concept of a majority vote or imposing the will of the majority on the minority. The goal is to strive for consensus through a process of respectful deliberation where everyone feels heard and valued. Of course, this doesn't mean that everyone always agrees, but the emphasis is on seeking unity and understanding, even amidst different perspectives.
Oh, it's a very different approach from the kind of adversarial winner-takes-all mentality that we often see in other decision-making systems.
It is. And this commitment to consultation isn't just theoretical. The Baha'i Faith has a global administrative structure that operates on these principles. It's a fascinating example of how unity and consultation can work in practice, even across diverse cultures and perspectives.
That's really impressive, especially considering the complexity of managing a global community. But I have to ask, are there any checks and balances in place? How do they ensure that the system doesn't become insular or unresponsive to the needs of the community?
That's an important question. One key safeguard is the principle of the right of appeal.
Okay.
Any individual or group within the Baha'i community has the right to appeal decisions made by a council to a higher council, all the way up to the Universal House of Justice, the international governing body of the Baha'i Faith. This ensures that there's a mechanism for addressing concerns and ensuring accountability.
So there's a built-in system for recourse and review, which helps prevent any one individual or council from having too much power.
Exactly. And this system of checks and balances, combined with the emphasis on consultation and unity, aims to create a dynamic and responsive system of governance that can adapt to the evolving needs of the community and the world.
You know, it's fascinating to consider how this model of governance could potentially be applied beyond the Baha'i community. What lessons do you think other organizations or even governments could learn from the Baha'i administrative order?
I think there are many valuable lessons to be gleaned. The emphasis on consultation, the focus on character and service, and the commitment to unity and collaboration offer a compelling alternative to the often divisive and adversarial systems we see in many parts of the world today. Whether those lessons can be fully adopted by other systems is a complex question, but I think they certainly provide food for thought.
It's a powerful reminder that there are different ways of structuring power and decision-making, and that those structures can have a profound impact on the culture and values of a community or even a nation.
And it's not just about the structures themselves, but about the underlying principles. Even if a particular system can't be replicated wholesale, the principles of unity, consultation, and service can be applied in any context, from families and workplaces to communities and global organizations.
Okay, so if we shift gears a bit, how does this notion of a shift in human consciousness connect with the broader theme of progressive revelation that we touched on earlier? How does Shoghi Effendi tie those two concepts together?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of Shoghi Effendi's vision. For him, the concept of progressive revelation wasn't just an abstract theological idea. It was directly linked to the evolution of human consciousness and the advancement of civilization.
So it's not just about new religious teachings, it's about humanity's capacity to understand and live by those teachings, which is constantly evolving.
Exactly. Shoghi Effendi believed that each new revelation from God brings with it a new level of understanding, a heightened awareness of spiritual truths, and an expanded capacity for love and unity. And this, in turn, drives the progress of civilization.
So as humanity's spiritual understanding evolves through these successive revelations, our capacity for creating a just and peaceful world order also grows.
Precisely. Shoghi Effendi saw a clear link between spiritual evolution and social evolution. He believed that the Baha'i Faith, with its emphasis on unity, justice, and consultation, was ushering in a new era of human development, one characterized by greater understanding, collaboration, and peace.
It's a hopeful vision, especially in a world that often feels dominated by conflict and division. But it also raises a challenging question. If we're truly in this new era of human development, why do we still see so much suffering and injustice in the world?
That's a question that many grapple with. Shoghi Effendi didn't shy away from the realities of human suffering. He acknowledged the deep-seated prejudices, the entrenched systems of oppression, and the forces of materialism and greed that continue to plague humanity. But he maintained a hopeful perspective, believing that this shifting consciousness is a process, not an overnight transformation.
So it's not about expecting perfection. It's about recognizing that we're part of a long and complex journey towards a more just and unified world.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of world order as an active process comes in.
Okay.
Shoghi Effendi believed that building a just and peaceful world requires more than just good intentions or lofty ideals. It demands action, effort, and a willingness to engage in the messy work of transforming ourselves and our societies.
So it's not just about passively waiting for a utopian future to arrive. It's about actively participating in creating that future through our choices, our actions, and our commitment to those principles of unity and justice.
Precisely. And that brings us to another crucial element of Shoghi Effendi's vision.
Okay.
One that's intricately linked to both progressive revelation and the Baha'i administrative order, the concept of the covenant.
Now, the covenant is a term I've heard mentioned in connection with the Baha'i Faith, but I have to admit, I'm not entirely clear on what it means. Can you shed some light on that?
Of course. The covenant, in the Baha'i context, refers to a spiritual agreement, a sacred bond, between God, the divine messengers, and humanity.
Okay.
It's essentially a promise from God to guide and sustain humanity on its spiritual journey, and a commitment from humanity to follow the teachings of the messengers and strive to build a better world.
So it's a reciprocal relationship, a two-way street between the divine and humanity.
Exactly. And this concept of the covenant is central to understanding the Baha'i Faith's approach to leadership and authority.
How so? How does the covenant shape the way the Baha'i Faith views leadership and authority?
Well, for Baha'is, the covenant is not just an abstract theological concept. It has very real implications for how the faith is organized and governed. It's the foundation for the Baha'i administrative order, ensuring its continuity, its unity, and its adherence to the teachings of Bahá'u'lláh, the prophet founder of the Baha'i Faith.
So the covenant provides a kind of framework or guiding principle for the entire administrative structure.
Precisely. The covenant is seen as a safeguard against division, ensuring that the Baha'i community remains unified and focused on its mission of building a just and peaceful world order.
That makes sense. But how exactly does it work in practice? How does the covenant ensure that unity and prevent division?
Shoghi Effendi emphasized that the covenant is not just about following rules or blindly obeying authority.
Right.
It's about a deep, personal commitment to the teachings of Baha'u'lláh and a recognition of the divinely ordained institutions that guide the Baha'i community.
So it's about aligning oneself with a higher purpose, a spiritual vision that transcends individual interests or personal opinions.
Exactly. And this commitment to the covenant is seen as essential for the success of the Baha'i Faith's mission. Shoghi Effendi believed that the Baha'i community, by remaining steadfast in its adherence to the covenant, could serve as a beacon of unity and hope for a world desperately in need of both.
It's a powerful idea, this notion of a spiritual agreement that can bind a community together and guide it towards a common purpose. But I'm wondering, how does this concept of the covenant relate to the broader theme of progressive revelation that we've been discussing?
That's a great question. Shoghi Effendi saw a direct connection between the covenant and the principle of progressive revelation. He believed that each new divine messenger renews the covenant, bringing humanity closer to God and providing guidance for a new stage of spiritual and social evolution.
So each revelation doesn't negate or replace the previous covenant. It builds upon it, expands it, and deepens humanity's understanding of its relationship with the divine.
Exactly. And Shoghi Effendi saw the Baha'i Faith as the culmination of this long line of divine messengers, renewing the covenant for this age and ushering in a new era of unity and peace.
This has been an incredibly insightful exploration of Shoghi Effendi's vision and the concept of world order as an active process. But before we wrap up, there's one question that's been lingering in my mind. If the Baha'i community is meant to be this microcosm of a future world order, how do they navigate the complexities of engaging with the wider world while maintaining their distinct identity?
That's a crucial question. It gets to the heart of the Baha'i Faith's approach to social action and engagement with the world. Shoghi Effendi emphasized that the Baha'i community should not isolate itself from the world or attempt to create a separate utopian society. Instead, he encouraged Baha'is to actively engage with the wider world, to contribute to the betterment of society, and to work alongside others of goodwill, to address the pressing challenges facing humanity.
So it's not about withdrawing from the world, it's about being a force for positive change within it while remaining true to their core principles and beliefs.
Exactly. And this approach is reflected in the Baha'i community's involvement in various areas of social action, from promoting education and sustainable development to advocating for peace and interfaith dialogue. Baha'i see themselves as citizens of the world, working alongside others to build a more just and unified society, inspired by their faith's teachings and guided by the principles of unity, consultation, and service.
It's a powerful reminder that spiritual values can and should inform our engagement with the world and our efforts to create a better future for all.
Precisely. Shoghi Effendi's vision of world order wasn't just about abstract principles or distant utopias. It was about a practical path towards a more just and peaceful world, a path rooted in the spiritual transformation of individuals and the collaborative efforts of communities working together for the betterment of humanity.
This has been an incredible deep dive into Shoghi Effendi's vision, and I have to say, it's given me a lot to think about. As we wrap up, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners will walk away with?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that Shoghi Effendi's vision of world order is not just a theory or a utopian dream. It's a call to action.
Yeah.
It's an invitation to each of us, regardless of our backgrounds or beliefs, to participate in building a world where unity, justice, and collaboration are not just aspirations, but lived realities.
It's a powerful message, especially in a world that often feels so fragmented and divided.
Absolutely.
But it's also a challenging one. It requires us to look beyond our differences, to step outside of our comfort zones, and to embrace a vision of a future that might seem radically different from the world we see around us today.
It does.
So where do we even begin? If we want to embrace this vision and work towards this world order that Shoghi Effendi describes, what are some practical steps we can take in our own lives?
Well, I think it starts with cultivating those qualities that Shoghi Effendi emphasized, things like unity, a spirit of collaboration, willingness to consult with others, and a commitment to serving humanity. These are qualities that we can practice in our daily interactions, in our relationships, in our communities.
So it's not just about grand gestures or sweeping societal changes. It's about those small, everyday acts of kindness, compassion, and understanding that can gradually transform our relationships in our communities from the ground up.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing the power of consultation, not just as a formal process, but as a way of life.
Right.
It's about approaching our interactions with a spirit of humility, a willingness to listen to others, and a desire to find solutions that benefit everyone involved.
It sounds like it requires a pretty fundamental shift in how we relate to one another, moving away from those patterns of competition, dominance, and self-interest that so often characterize human interactions.
It does, but it's a shift that's both necessary and possible. Shoghi Effendi believed that human beings have an innate capacity for love, unity, and collaboration. And that those qualities can be nurtured and developed through conscious effort and a commitment to spiritual growth.
So it's about tapping into that deeper potential within ourselves and within humanity as a whole. It's about recognizing that we are capable of creating a world that reflects those higher values of unity, justice, and peace.
Precisely. And it's a journey that requires both individual transformation and collective action. We need to work on ourselves, cultivate those qualities of unity and collaboration in our own lives, and we need to work together to build systems and institutions that reflect those values.
This has been an incredibly inspiring and thought-provoking conversation. As we wrap up, what's the one message you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say this: don't underestimate the power of your own actions and choices. Each of us, in our own way, can contribute to building a better world, whether it's through practicing those principles of unity and consultation in our families and communities, or supporting organizations that are working to address those pressing global challenges. Every step we take in the direction of unity and justice brings us closer to that world order that Shoghi Effendi envisioned.
It's a hopeful reminder that change is possible, that we are not powerless in the face of the world's challenges.
Exactly. And that we have a responsibility to act, to use our talents and resources to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to flourish.
This has been an incredible deep dive into Shoghi Effendi's The World Order of Bahá'u'lláh. From exploring the concepts of world order and progressive revelation to understanding the Baha'i administrative order and the power of consultation, we've covered a lot of ground. We hope this exploration has been as insightful for you as it has been for us.
It's been a pleasure delving into these profound concepts with you.
And to our listeners, if this episode has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to learn more. There's a whole world of knowledge and inspiration waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving to make the world a better place.
And never underestimate the power of unity and collaboration to create lasting change.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we look forward to exploring new ideas and insights with you again soon.